I was starting to watch a lot of videos about how college campus has become more and more one-sided, and they couldn't tolerate a diverse opinion. There are professors being demoted or even removed from position because of one minor comment that they've made and someone complained. So Professor Jonathan Haidt has some YouTube videos that's raising this issue, and he founded a Heterodox Academy that's trying to promote diverse, respect for but diverse point of views. And Will Reusch is the lead, I think, for California. And then that's how I found out about him. And then it happens to be that ethnic studies is something that's even related. That was even before I learned about ethnic studies. So welcome, Will.
Cool, thank you. Alina, that was great. That was really good. I'm gonna try not to be repetitive because there's certain things where it might overlap, and I'll try not to do that. Thank you for everyone who's watching this. Happy to answer questions. At the end, I'll give you my contact. This is something I think is really important. I'm biased, but I think that that the best education we can possibly give to our next generation is really important. So next. So just a little bit of background is I've been teaching for 15 years. I taught 2 years in Pennsylvania, and then I've been out in California for, it was like a year and a half in Pennsylvania, and then I've been out in California for about 13 and a half, 14 years. All areas of social sciences, grades 8 through 12, and in various communities. I've taught literally like kids who are on like TV shows, like household name actors, and gang members who got arrested for murder. I've taught like kids whose parents run hedge funds and are literally like billionaires, and kids who sleep in a car or sleep under an overpass or something like that. So I have a lot of diverse experiences. One of the things about ethnic studies is it should be beautiful. It should be something about unity and something beautiful. And having taught in all of these communities, I've been to quinceañeras and barbecues where I was the only white guy there, and bar mitzvahs and all these kinds of things. And you get to take in all of these cultures that I wasn't aware of. And it's really incredible. And you really get a sense of, America, and what makes America awesome is the diversity that we have, and how to celebrate that, I think, is something really incredible and important. As was mentioned, I am the co-moderator of the Heterodox Academy K through 12 education group, which is on Facebook, but also Heterodox Academy, I pushed them pretty hard to open up to K through 12 educators, and now they're accepting K through 12 educators to be able to discuss viewpoint diversity in a, lack of a better term, a safe space. So that we can, challenge different ideas and talk about things, and really try and find out what's the best way to move forward with all kinds of controversial ideas and things like that. I'm also a member of Civic Spirit, which is an organization that promotes civic education and things like that. And I have a podcast called Cylinder Radio, again, about viewpoint diversity. The idea, I don't have a cylinder here, but the idea is if you look at a cylinder from one side, it looks just like a circle. If you look at it from the other side, it looks like a rectangle, but it's actually a three-dimensional shape. So there's a lot of nuance and complexity that you don't see only from your vantage point. I've had on 3 of the last 4 National Teachers of the Year. I've had on Peter Boghossian, James Lindsay, a whole bunch of different people that are well respected in social science and things like that. Next. Okay, so what's in a name? And I think initially we have to address this concept of how could you possibly be against the idea of social justice or ethnic studies or something like anti-racism, cultural studies, anything like that. The name can be very deceiving. And I think Alina went into this like really well. I've heard it be called a Trojan horse term, where you bring it in because it seems like what could possibly be wrong with this? And that's how some bad ideas could work their way in, because it wouldn't even occur to you that something as beautiful sounding as anti-racism could ever be a negative. So next. But part of the issue is that it is not proven to improve marginalized communities. And proof is something that we have to go on in social sciences. It's possible that there's even perverse unintended consequences that'll emerge from this. I don't know the degree of how much of this is intentional and how much of it is unintended, but similar to affirmative action, the data is not clear that affirmative action is beneficial to the communities that it was designed to help. This is a book called Mismatch, and it lays out a pretty good argument that affirmative action is actually not doing the job that it was intended to do, even if the intentions were good. So next. Okay, this is political, as was mentioned, and it's supposed to be political. Some of this emerges from Howard Zinn. I use Howard Zinn. I use the People's History of the United States in my class. But I use it along with other things. If you look up the Wikipedia, just the Wikipedia entry for cultural studies, it says political project over and over and over again, established by activists and English majors. It says this is a political project, a political project, a political project, assisted by Derek Bell, Kimberly Crenshaw, Judith Butler. This is clearly a political project, and it's nakedly so. So it's important that we recognize that this is about teaching politics, particular politics in the classroom. And then we can have the discussion of whether or not that's good, but we need to just, kind of like call it for what it is and what it's intended to be. Next. This is the older version. I changed this up a little bit, but that's fine. It's not just a left-wing political movement. It's a very specific kind of movement. Go to the next slide. Should have had, this works. It's a specific narrative that's not even from the left, because the left, liberal principles of John Stuart Mill and things like that are about civil discourse and making sure that all viewpoints are represented and things of that nature. Next, please. If you can just click on a couple so I get to the end of this slide. Okay, so here's an example of what I mean by its very specific narrative. Ibram Kendi and Ta-Nehisi Coates are two examples of people who are modern and promoted as being people we should promote. So I know a lot of educators that are reading How to Be an Anti-Racist, the Robin DiAngelo book of White Fragility, Peggy McIntosh, her idea of white privilege and things like that. Those are all acceptable, but Thomas Sowell or John McWhorter, who are highly respected, Black men who have achieved a lot in the academic world, their narrative is not brought in. Next, please. People like Ayaan Hirsi Ali. Oh, can you go back one, please? Ayaan Hirsi Ali, a Black woman, a Muslim Black woman, immigrant. Chloe Valdery, a Black woman from Louisiana. Someone like Aisha Akanbi. Their perspective is not taken into account because they don't have necessarily the same political viewpoints, even though they fit the intersectionality matrix of being immigrant, Muslim, Black woman. If their narrative and their viewpoints don't align with this ideology, then they're not included. And that is where I think the problem lies, is we don't have diversity within our diversity. And therefore, it's clearly not about elevating Black voices, let's say. It's about elevating a very specific faction of Black voices, let's say, for this example. Next, please. So the lack of rigorous social science. The scientific method is important. And one of the things that I really love about the scientific method is the concept of seeking disconfirmation, not confirmation bias, is when you have a hypothesis. So it could be anything. It could be Donald Trump is wonderful or Donald Trump is terrible. It doesn't really matter what it is try to prove yourself wrong. Because if you believe that gravity exists, try to prove it wrong, and you're gonna have a tough time. So trying to prove something wrong in your journey, as opposed to trying to find how you're right, will get you closer to the truth. And it's challenging and it's disruptive to your, kind of your mindset that is so happy to feel like you're right. But Einstein said here, if we knew what we were doing, it would not be called research. So we need to have some intellectual humility and some genuine curiosity. Next, please. The people on the right here. One more, please. I covered that. Oh, here we go. The grievance studies affair, the hoax paper. So the people on the right, that's James Lindsay, Helen Pluckrose in the middle, and Peter Boghossian on the right. If you're not familiar with what they did, they were three prominent academics who felt like there wasn't rigorous social science going into what they called the grievance studies, which is critical theories, critical social justice theories, gender studies, race studies, fat studies, queer studies, things like that. So they made up stories, and they wrote an entire life's worth of work in a few months. And these papers got peer reviewed and published in the top academic journals. And they even won awards for excellent scholarship. And then they had to say, no, we made this all up. And there were some disturbing ones. Some of them, it was funny. Some of them, like, they made up a story about how dog parks promote rape culture. And they said how they inspected 10,000 different dogs' genitals, which would take like 3 years to do. And then asked the owners how the dog identifies. And it won an award for excellent scholarship in one of the top gender studies journals. They took Mein Kampf, Adolf Hitler's book, and they changed the language to everywhere it said Nazis, it was changed to women of color, and everywhere it said Jews, it was changed to straight white men, and that was accepted in an academic journal. So it was quite startling what they revealed about these social science classes, if you want to use air quotes, and the lack of rigor, that it was very much just pushing forth this agenda, no matter what, as long as it followed that agenda. Next, please. There we go. Now, part of the reason why we're in this is because we see things so differently. Some people probably, even some of you are like, this feels very wrong. This feels very weird to me. How can we be talking about this stuff? It just doesn't sit right with you. So Jonathan Haidt, who started the Heterodox Academy, did excellent research on why is it that we see morality so differently. And the way he explains is kind of like taste buds. Like for some of you, you eat cilantro and it tastes great. Some of you, you eat cilantro and it tastes like soap. And we don't have the same taste buds. You go to a restaurant, you're like, what tastes great here? It's a silly question sometimes because we all have different taste buds. And morality actually works the same way, that we don't view all things the same when it comes to morality, and there's different taste buds, and some of them are stronger than the others. Some of us like sweet things, and some of us like salty things and savory things and all kinds of stuff like that. And that's how we are through our morals as well. So that's part of the reason why we don't always see eye to eye on issues like this. And we see some people see something as horribly immoral and other people don't see it as immoral at all. It's not that one is immoral, we're differently moral. It's not like cilantro objectively tastes bad. It subjectively tastes bad. And that's important to recognize. Next, please. So these are what the taste buds are. And some people, if you're more, left-brained or right-brained, more conservative, more liberal, some of these are going to be heightened more than others. If you go to the next slide, you'll see how this works. Click, click. Hope you guys are doing well. So you can see here from very conservative to very liberal. Go back one, please. Almost done, almost done. Hopefully you guys aren't falling asleep. I do this all day long, and I look at the faces of 11th graders and stuff while I'm teaching, and it's just like, so it's hard to get like the feedback. I miss teaching in the classroom. But you can see here that harm and fairness is very high, okay, for liberal people, and it's lower for. I'm sorry, harm and fairness is very high for the very liberal, and it's a little bit lower for the very conservative. And things like respect for authority. Respect for authority is higher among more conservatives. purity is higher for more conservatives. So what happens is certain people say, oh, that's wrong. And other people are like, there's nothing wrong with that. And we need to understand why it is that we see morality so differently. And I think that's a big part of why we're in this debate. And the more that we can understand why people are seeing things so differently than ourselves, then we can have an actual conversation about how to best approach these ethnic studies and do it the best way that we can. And I would say like the general ethnic studies, the way that Alina said, I think she's spot on with, we can make this into something beautiful if it'll be allowed. So next thing. So there's a need for critical thinking and viewpoint diversity. Heterodox Academy membership is open for K through 12 educators, and you are welcome. You are welcome, please. Please join us, have the conversation. We love disagreement. I love disagreement. I love being proven wrong. I think we can do this with grace for one another and really focus on what this is about is giving our kids, the next generation, the best education that they can so that they can go on and fix some societal problems. And I think we can all agree that we have problems to fix. So let's go about doing this the best way that we possibly can. Also on Facebook, please check out K-12 Education, Heterodox K-12 Education Group on Facebook. And this is their motto here is great minds don't always think alike. And that's important to get this done right, is we need all perspectives. So if you disagree with something that I said, I would love to talk to you about it, and we can have a kind, respectful conversation. I think that's it. Is that it? Oh, yeah. Oh, you can contact me anytime. cylinderradio@gmail.com. My name is also a website that I just started. And I use Instagram a lot. That's the one that the youngins are on. So I use that for teachers and posting things, news commentary and stuff like that. And Heterodox Academy.
Thank you so much. At first, I was depressed that, oh my God, these are being taught. And now I'm like hopeful we could make this something beautiful that we can all help to create something beautiful for our children in the education that really teach them how to approach, how to even have a dialogue with people who we disagree. That's a very important skill to have. So